Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your most true, authentic business voice. Heck, your most true, authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, drive more revenue, all that sort of stuff. Hey, maybe meet the person of your dreams, win millions of dollars. We can't guarantee those last two yet. I feel confident we're going to get on those last two, but the rest of them I feel great about. And one of the reasons I feel as if we can help and have some fun in the process is because we bring people on who walk the walk. And one of those great, cool people is with me today. James Tully, Florida-based with a little bit of Philly in there as well. So for my hometown.
More than a little.
It's great for all this as well. James, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thanks, John, for having me. I don't want to be in too many people's dreams, but I like your interest, so I'm happy to be with you today.
I love that. Listen, we got a classic storyteller here that I'm excited to share. We've got what I'm going to say, I hate words like former, but part of James's story has to do with TV news. And between working in broadcast journalism, ABC, CBS, Fox affiliates, we got a bigger picture guy here. And I'm really, really excited about this. Let me ask you right off the bat, what got you into broadcast journalism?
Oh, wow, John. Well, I'm not going to rattle on for a long time with it, but it started all the way back when I was a kid and wasn't great at sports, was not some kind of exceptional student in grade school, middle school, all the way up through. But I think you always look for what you excel at past your peers. And I think if you can find that, you should grasp it and go for it. And the one thing I always was better at than a lot of my friends, wasn't much, but I could speak in front of people. I could do oral presentations in class and I liked writing them. I liked standing up and presenting and I was comfortable and I watched how terrified my friends were, because Jerry Seinfeld's joke is right. Like more people would rather at a funeral, they'd rather be in the casket than up there speaking about the person who's dead. Public speaking's a big time fear, which is going to lead me into talking about some of the consulting work I'm doing, right? Helping people be more comfortable selling your skills, right? So that was, after in college, it was easy. I'll major in mass communications and see where that takes me. And I benefited from going to a really small school. I went to York College of Pennsylvania, which is not too far from where you're sitting, I believe.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And look, I didn't have great SAT scores. I certainly didn't have this huge academic drive, wasn't playing any sports, no scholarships, because my parents asked me repeatedly. And by the way, if I ever have kids, you're going to be applying for every freaking scholarship you can find because when you're saddled with student loans, you'll really regret it. However, between the radio station and the TV station at this small school, I didn't have to leap over tons of people. So by the time I was a sophomore, I was working in both extensively. So I was getting the reps, and reps are important to doing this. And you get that when you're talking anything, right? I was getting a lot of reps and I was just getting better and better to the point where one of the tiniest stations in America would hire me outside of college. And they did in Little Winchester, Virginia. A station doesn't even exist anymore, but it was a 2-hour drive from where I grew up in York. Right. So it was an easy transition. I started there. I did everything. And, it's kind of, you build that pyramid. So, you start in the beginning, it's the base of your pyramid. You're doing everything. I even directed shows. I did behind the scenes work. I did sports. Cool. I did news. And then as I graduated and went to other markets, finally ending up in Tampa, I was at the top of the pyramid and I was anchoring. And I was a main morning anchor. So I had really felt like by the 15th year, I had done everything I could have ever imagined. If I could go back and talk to a 21-year-old me, I would have fell off my chair, being able to tell him everything I did. So I felt satisfied in that sense. Yeah.
I love the fact that you bring up like the abilities or the opportunities that you get working in smaller platforms. I came from my first exposure in terms of, because I'm more on the sales side, but I was
Right.
given a lot of things to do that weren't sales related in
Yeah.
addition, because I worked for a small independent station in Philadelphia that no longer exists, WGTW TV, and the sense of opportunity. Like for me, it didn't scare me. It actually excited me. And it sounds like that was the case for you
Yeah.
because, as you said, getting in the reps. But I will ask,
Mhm.
um, in that regard, what was the relo like for you? I mean, so the first move is a couple of hours. That's not terribly bad. To the point where you're now reloading to, now, I mean, it's a great place, which, like I said, to me, Tampa, Florida is not exactly a punishment, you know? But
No. It may be
what's the
nicknamed
reload
God's.
like in
It,
terms of
it
changing your life?
yeah, Tampa may be nicknamed God's waiting room, but I don't buy that. It's beautiful down here. I love it.
Right.
I may be on the younger side.
Big city with a
There's
beach is
some.
one of my favorite
Oh no, no.
places, man.
Uh, well, the relo was again. You take a fearless attitude with that too, because you
Mhm,
don't necessarily. I mean, some people don't have a problem with leaving everything, and
mhm,
everything you know. But
mhm.
I was loving what I was doing so much, I just kept going, and I was making not very good money. I mean, my first job paid me $21,000. I mean,
Right.
we always joked that they had that number just right so we couldn't stand in line for food stamps. Had it been any less, I think we could have gotten government assistance. Like it was really pathetic. And for a meager $10,000 raise, I took a job offer to be a sports reporter slash anchor in Tulsa,
Got you. Yep.
Oklahoma. Now that talk about a relocation that was daunting. Driving 24 hours, literally 24 hours from Virginia to Tulsa was that was something. I mean, when you're going through Missouri and vegetation stops growing and you're like, where in the hell am I? What am I doing?
Right.
It's a
And what's
long
it like
drive to
here?
think about things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
But truly, like looking back, Tulsa provided me incredible opportunities. I mean,
Mhm,
I covered Oklahoma State football. The Oklahoma City Thunder went to the NBA Finals while
mhm.
I was there. And it's a bunch of celebrities. I interviewed more high profile athletes and celebrities in Tulsa than I did anywhere else. It was between the Hard Rock Hotel that was just launched and all the celebrities they get in there, and not to mention just a hotbed for pro athletes. I mean, I was in press conferences with Kobe Bryant, asking him questions, Kevin Durant. What an incredible, with a maturation process for me being a broadcaster and a great reporter really
Right.
happened there.
Right. And that's to me where I feel like one of those things where when people take leaps, that
Mhm.
as daunting as it may feel, like you said, you're driving through vegetation to nothing,
That's right.
but then the payoff in this,
Sorry, Missouri. It's
right? But the
yeah.
payoff is huge in the sense that you got opportunities to be with
Oh yeah.
elite opportunities in elite circumstances, and to me that's the exciting part.
Well, I was
Um,
mid twenties too, John. I was in my mid
oh,
twenties, so that
yep.
wasn't my earning. That wasn't really my time to earn
Mhm,
money. It was my
mhm.
time to earn credibility and
Do the
earn
reps.
experience. Yeah, there you go.
Right? And you're so now you're doing the reps and you're doing serious reps because you're talking to serious people. What got you to
Okay.
Tampa?
Well, Tampa happened by surprise. After Tulsa, I went
Hmm.
back and worked in my home market, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
which is the Harrisburg, York, Lancaster market, basically
Yep.
South Central Pennsylvania. That's where I
We
grew
used
up. I
to
grew up
call
in
it the
York,
hilly region when
the
it
hilly region.
actually mattered. Harrisburg, Lancaster, Lebanon, York.
Oh, people, you tell people you're from York, they don't know what it is. They're like, did you say New York? I'm like, no, I didn't. I said just York. And it's known as the snack food capital of the country with good reason. You got
Wait a minute, give it
Snyder's of
again.
Hanover,
It's known as the,
snack food capital of the country.
oh my God.
Yeah, you have Snyder's of Hanover, which
Huh?
is essentially right outside York County.
Right?
You have Utz chips.
Hmm.
You have Hers chips. You have the
Hmm.
barbells. They make well, because everyone's eating all those awful snacks. You got to be able to work it off. So they make barbells. That's a bad joke. That's bad. But they really do make the
I
York.
like it.
If you're at the gym and you see and look at the barbell and if it says York on it, yep, it was made in York. Peppermint patties,
I
York
got it.
peppermint patties. Of
Yep.
course, Hershey bought them out, and so
Mhm.
Hershey makes those now. Not far from York either. Anyway, from yeah, here I am, and I put it about 4 years in the Harrisburg market.
Yeah.
It was great because I still had I had some grandparents living, so they could turn on the news and watch. which was
Mhm.
neat. And my parents too. It was nice for them to not watch it on what was streaming back then.
Oh, right, which was terrible back then.
Wasn't what it is now. It was still
Right.
accessible. So I was ready to leave then. It was
Mhm.
2016, and I still wasn't making a lot of money. And
Mhm.
I'm watching my friends and people that are starting families, and here I am still single because I've moved around so much, and and I was so dedicated. I was married to my job, but
Mhm.
the payoff wasn't there, and I was reaching. I'm in my early 30s and or approaching that, and you want to make some money. And so I was thinking about consulting back then.
Mhm.
And then I got a call from a news director I had in Tulsa who offered me the
Right.
Tampa job, changed
Mhm.
my life, doubled my
Yep.
salary off the bat. And shortly after coming to Tampa, I was promoted to main morning anchor,
Mhm.
which again, more life changing money,
Mhm.
more life changing opportunities. And it was nice to be the guy.
Mhm.
Um, and that was kind of what you aspire to. You always want to
Exactly.
have that top goal.
Mhm.
And I did a lot of weekends, worked a lot of holidays leading up to this. So to get that opportunity felt like this is the reason you do it. Kind of the reason you're an Eagles fan, right? To see the Super Bowl, see them
Just
kick absolute
see,
ass in the
yeah,
Super Bowl.
not right. Go to the parade. Go to the parade. Like I said, and was there. I was.
This was the point.
That,
That was the point of rooting
that
for
the
this team from the
whole
time
point.
I exactly.
Right.
And that it was the same, felt like the same type of goal accomplished.
So you're the guy, as you're saying, and I get it. Right.
Well,
You're
the
the
guy
guy.
next
You're
to a
getting
really
opportunity.
strong, right next to a really strong co-anchor, but you are the team in the
Mhm.
morning and all the responsibilities that come with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
But
was a big
that's where I wanted to, that's what I wanted to ask you.
sure.
All the responsibilities that come with that. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's life-changing money and oh my God,
Yeah.
talk to me about that because talking about Eagles and I think shoulder pads too and burdens and it's like so you're the person, right?
Right.
Along with the
Right.
co-anchor. What was that like?
Well, I think that I can look back now and say I just wasn't mature enough. You really think you're ready, but you're not. You got to throw yourself in the fire. And I
Yeah.
learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about how to conduct myself better.
Mhm. Right?
It's one thing to be a reporter or even a part-time anchor or
Mhm.
whatever else, but when you are basically, we were on the air for 4.5, 5 hours a day. That's almost 20 hours a week. That's a
Mhm.
lot. And my mug's up there a lot. So
Right.
I found myself becoming a lot more self-critical, a
Mhm.
lot more concerned about, you become more egotistical. You're
Mhm.
really, how you carry yourself is very important, to
Mhm.
your livelihood and everything else. I didn't like a lot of who I became. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
But I got through it, and that there was certainly some bumps in the road, but a
Right.
couple years in, things smoothed out. Then we had the pandemic, and I worked through
Mhm.
some weird stuff. I mean, the
Sure.
pandemic, a couple of hurricanes down here,
Mhm.
hurricane coverages, the
Mhm.
tireless efforts I watched everybody
Mhm.
put in, including us on the desk for long periods of time,
Mhm.
John. I mean,
What's
it,
long? Give me an
well,
example. Just
in
an example.
2017 with Hurricane Irma, we were on the air with maybe a hour break, 32, 35 hours straight,
And you have
handing off mics to the other anchors and then taking it right back after maybe 6 hours of sleep. It was wild. It was
yeah.
very wild. Hmm.
So that's the thing I think so often that people forget
Right.
in terms of what looks the perception of a glamorous life. What are you complaining about? I mean, it's great and it's great money and you just do this,
We'll talk
but
about the
in
hours
32
too.
hours.
Well, that could happen once every couple of years, but
Mhm.
really, as a morning anchor, you're
Mhm.
waking up at 2:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it is fun to leave work at 10:30 and watch
Right.
everybody else come in.
Right.
I'll
Right.
never I'll never say that wasn't awesome. But
But the
I
get
have
there is
I
kind of
don't
gross.
I don't think I'll ever I don't believe I'll ever work those hours again.
Right.
It just was something I don't think I ever adapted to, and it
Mhm.
was very hard on me physically. And there's sleep deprivation's a real bitch, John. I mean, you
Mhm.
you don't understand some of the things that happen to your body and your personality when you don't have sleep over
Mhm.
long periods of time,
Right.
or not enough sleep, I should
Mhm.
say. So that was, yeah, it was difficult, but yeah, I mean, it was. Well, I guess I could just say it was. There's just, like you said, you got the reps, right? We
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reps. I
Yeah.
mean, you're on there a lot.
Mhm.
So as long as you care about your work and put the effort in,
Mhm.
you're just going to naturally get a lot better at what you do. And I think I definitely saw that happen.
So at the station side or from the field side or whatever, what's
Mhm.
going on? What are you observing in not just for the long hours, but you're not there now. So the fact of the
Right.
matter is, it's
Yeah.
like,
What do I
okay,
do?
if it was, you know what I mean? When things look so idyllic,
Yeah.
that it's like, okay, so what's going on in terms of the industry side and at the time, and in regards to the like, what you were feeling in addition to sleep deprived.
Well, I think that we need to ask a serious question about
Hmm.
news anchors right now in 2025.
Okay.
And why is it Joe Rogan gets more viewers and listeners than David Muir?
Hmm.
I mean, a lot more.
Yeah.
Why can Megyn Kelly leave broadcast news and start a YouTube channel and have more views,
Hmm.
more subscribers than all of NBC News?
Hmm. Don
Okay.
Lemon.
Don Lemon, another one. Bill Maher is somebody I listen to a lot.
Hmm.
He's not a news guy per se, but he
Hmm.
gives that other perspective, and it's really interesting where the space he's sitting in right now. But the scripted anchor is
Hmm.
not effective, nearly as effective as what it used to be,
Hmm.
and we can talk about why that is, and I have a lot of ideas as to why.
I
But
do
right
want to
now,
hear yours.
authenticity rules. And it's
Yeah.
hard to. And why does it rule?
Hmm.
Because influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers, everything else, they're just putting a camera in front of their face, not different than what
Hmm.
you've done. And they're speaking their mind and they're speaking from
Right.
their heart and from
Hmm.
their brain. And it's not pre-prepared.
Hmm.
And people that resonates with people because it is authentic. It's also
Hmm.
long form. And I think long form is really important. The news chops things up. They take sound bites out of context. You
Hmm.
get the I call it the degradation of the product because we watch producers come in that were less experienced. Some of them, God bless them, right out of college, we got lucky, particularly in Tampa, hired a couple of producers right out of college.
Hmm.
Fortunately, they were like sponges and they had maturity and they really hit the ground running. And after some bumps, they made it work. But again, without experienced producers putting some things together, and anchors who don't care. I was somebody who prided myself on never taking shortcuts. But the last couple of years, when I saw myself doing that, I realized maybe it's time for me to think about doing something else.
Okay. But there was
That's
still a couple years where you may not have exactly been mailing it in, but you're feeling worn down in regards to what you're observing.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Think that
You nailed it.
impacted, yeah. How did that impact your, like, as you said, I take pride in what I do. I've done the reps, I have the experience. How did
Mhm.
that impact you as you're doing the job?
Well, it impacted me because I was worried about where our viewers coming from. They were getting
Hmm.
older and older and older,
Right.
and you're not. Local news has struggled from since the early 2000s
Oh.
from on getting younger
Hmm.
viewers. And look, you and I grew up, I'm guessing, in households where local news was on every single night,
Oh, that's what was in
followed
the
by the
field. It
nightly
was,
news.
hmm.
Right.
So
It
my
was an
mom
everyday
was,
thing.
right.
And people don't do that anymore because a lot of people many years ago cut the cord. We knew 8 years ago that at that point we were at a precipice where there were more people consuming content, either streaming or over the
Sure.
web, than they were watching on their TVs with broadcast or the digital antennas, which is
Hmm.
such a weird thing. Like, who's going to disconnect their cable and go to a digital antenna to watch you, right?
That's
or disconnect
and
their streaming. Yeah, it's very bizarre. It didn't work. Listen, in 2010, John, I remember this pretty vividly. It was 2010. I was just
mhm.
getting ready to leave my first job. And I remember one of our directors, his name was Larry, he comes out and he's like, "Hey guys, you're not going to believe this. If you go to netflix.com, you can watch movies now."
Mhm.
And that was the beginning of the streaming
Mhm.
services as we know them. This is
Yep.
before Roku's and Apple TVs and apps, but
Sure.
a
Right.
lot of people just take their laptops and watch movies on Netflix. There was a window after
Mhm.
that. And I don't know how big that window was, but I don't think it was very big. Where if you
Mhm.
wanted to get into the streaming space, that was your time to really push it. Now it's flooded. It's
Oh,
hard as a news
100%.
station. It's hard as a news station to promote a streaming news service or your streaming channel when people pop it on and they've already got their Netflix, their Amazon Prime, their Paramount Plus, their Apple
Mhm.
Plus, their this plus, that plus. It's really hard to get into that space. I observed my own two eyes the types of people that would come up to me and notice me on the street
Yeah.
or or in the grocery store or whatever, and they just
Right.
weren't young. And where is our audience going to be coming from? And you worry about
Mhm.
the sales side, and you get it. You were a former sales guy. My
Sure.
dad worked in TV sales for a long
Mhm.
time, so I
Yep.
always had that connection to that
hmm
side of it.
Yep.
And you're like, well, if our 30 to 55 demographic isn't those are your spenders. I'd say your 30 to 45s are your big spenders for your ad dollars,
And I
right?
probably selfishly would say, no, no, no. But you're right. Because the
Yeah.
fact of
And
the matter is, that's really when they call the sweet spot.
oh, I mean,
That's
just
it.
the struggle is real. You see it now. I mean, just look at where the stock prices are of all these major
Mhm.
news corporations,
Right.
and look, there's a real struggle. They just don't know how to adapt to that. And
hmm
I'm not cutting off the fact that I could go back and work in local news. You do what you know sometimes,
Yeah.
and I'm certainly looking at positions, but it's going to have to be the right fit, particularly if I have to move. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of confusion at the
Mhm.
top as to how do we get those young people back watching, and it's difficult because they did
I
not grow
don't
up
know that you
watching local
do.
news. They
I
didn't grow
don't
up
know that
watching
you
it.
do.
Yeah.
James, I can remember from the executives and the sales side too that it was a sense that you watched in my field a little bit of a sense of arrogance in
Mm,
that this is going to fade or pass.
mm,
And
yeah.
so, why do we need to rush to adapt to something? Because we're the monster, we're the behemoth, we're the.
Yeah.
There were people in the radio industry that knew way better than we did that
Mhm.
you got to get on board with streaming, get on board with, they knew digital and streaming. I'll only speak for me, and it's like it just got flat out ignored.
There
No,
was
no, they're
something
always going to
else.
come back.
Well,
They'll always come back.
let me ask you this, John. Did you
Yeah,
notice a lack of promotion for the brand of the talent after a certain time?
sure.
Where, right, and that's it, probably more a negotiating tact
Mhm,
than anything else, and not allowing your
mhm,
talent to have too much power come negotiation
mhm.
time. I'm sure some people in the I had one of my mentors, Rob Hanrahan, may he rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago,
Right.
but he was the main anchor in Harrisburg when I worked
Thank
there at
you. Okay.
WHP
Yeah.
TV. And he would often tell me a lot about what things were like in the 90s. And he
Yeah. I
anchored
was in
in
the
New
field
York
in the
City,
90s. Yeah.
made a tons of money, and he would
Yep.
always tell me, you just got in this industry about 10 years too late, James.
Ain't that funny? They,
Isn't
they
that
didn't like.
funny? And that's you really don't want to hear that. And I would hear that from other people,
Right.
especially people I came to respect so much who were older than me and
Mhm,
working in production would tell me the
mhm.
same thing. So what a bizarre industry to get into when so many of the wisest people in it are telling you got in too late,
Oh my God, I can
right?
hear
Yeah.
this resonating so often. It's
Yeah.
not the same anymore. It's not the same anymore. From the client side, from the talent
Mhm.
side, from the executive, it's not the same. So, one of the things that I think about in regards to 20, and we folks, if you happen to be watching or listening to this episode in 2025, then the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, you know what I mean? Rather than sticking in a time capsule, what I would say is this: there is an ease, such an ease and privilege to getting information. So if the networks had jumped into the process 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, there would be no issue because there would be a level of comfort. The fact of the matter is, the good news that I've seen is that people still want very similar content. The content has not changed all that much, meaning, okay, a few more swear words, a few more direct, here's what I think, you know what I mean, rather than
Mhm.
here's what I'm being fed to say.
Mhm.
Um,
There you go.
However, you still have news, weather, sports, public opinion, cooking, fashion,
Mhm.
you
It's
know,
true.
the entertainment. It's so similar. So the
It's true.
window has seemed to be, we want the content, but do you really think I need to sit here and wait? Love David Muir, by the way. I do, for a lot of reasons. But
Did you like the clothespins on the back of his fireman's jacket when he was covering the California wildfires?
so can't say I love that.
That's again that speaks to authenticity, not the
Mhm.
clothespins, but the fact you put clothespins on because you care about your form-fitted fireman's jacket more than
No,
you
I
care
know
about
that.
helping
And
people
oh my God,
reporting
like
news.
from the old movie broadcast news from 100 years ago, right? That
That's a
it was like
brilliant
adjust
movie.
your suit coat, right?
Yeah, brilliant. It's a brilliant movie, but really, that it lends into the whole credibility,
Mhm.
authenticity thing. And I brought up brands and your brand and
Mhm.
the talents brand. I went to an excellent. It was called Anchor Bootcamp. So the name
Yeah.
needed some work, okay, but it
Mhm.
was a consultant driven conference that I went to in Cincinnati, where my
Mhm.
company is headquartered a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway from them, where they had surveyed, as they told us, over 15,000 news viewers across the country.
Mhm.
And overwhelmingly, the major reason people watched any particular news station
Mhm.
was because of one reason:
Hmm.
the people on it.
Yeah. There you go.
So, I know we had a lot of meetings about the different camera shots we'd
Mhm.
use, or the different monitors we would be presenting in front of, and then we'd talk about different segments we would do and push those out. But when people came to me on the street,
Mhm.
they would always ask, "Hey, are you and our weather guy Greg, are you as good of friends in real life as you seem to be on the news? Or we love the dresses that your co-anchor wears, and
Mhm.
we you know what I'm saying? They don't care about the monitor. They don't care about the new fancy cameras that we're using. They care about the
Oh,
people,
they don't. They
and
don't.
right. So I just felt the emphasis should have always been on the talent and pushing that out.
Mhm.
And here's why you should watch us: because these people on here, you trust them, you like them. They're really good at what they do. Check us out. And that was not, for whatever reason, I think we discussed it a couple of minutes ago,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a priority.
No, so let me ask you.
Yeah.
So you're seeing something, and we talked about risk taking and adjustment and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
you're seeing this and you're feeling this, and you did something pretty unusual, considering that these careers are so often, in spite of
Mhm.
the some like if the negative vision will say. They're looked at as dream jobs, and
Yeah.
so you made a conscious call to walk away.
I did.
And so, to me, defining risk taking and what did it feel like to walk away when you made
Liberating.
the call? Right
Liberating.
away? Or was it,
Immediately.
wow,
Immediately it did.
okay.
With, well, then there was a period of self-discovery, and there was learning how to live more in the moment and not wake
Hmm.
up in
Hmm.
panic because
Hmm.
everything you work for 15 years, you walked away from. It was
That.
more of an emotional decision. The only thing I would do different is I think I would have been less emotional about it and had some more things planned. I
Hmm.
knew the job market was difficult, but until you're in it, you don't realize how much it's changed and how difficult it really is.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that,
Oh,
the
uh-huh.
majority of other sectors don't really care what you did before.
No.
So that's, again, a learning experience. But look, I mean, it was not something that came to me immediately. I mean, this was years of thought. And
Right.
sometimes you just, have to look in the mirror and say, I don't love what I'm doing anymore. And often, I think as you grow in any industry and you reach a certain age, you start to look a little bit higher up on the horizon, and you look at
Hmm.
decisions management's making and you disagree with it. You look at how your leadership is, and you're concerned that it's not how you would be running things.
Hmm.
You disagree with a lot of decisions. And also I ask myself, can I really do this another 30 years? Like, really, can
Okay.
I do that? And then there was the last thing where I watched, economy was bad, still is. And I watched a lot of good people get walked out of the doors there.
Hmm.
And I told
Yep.
myself, you know what? I am going to take control of that, and I'm going to leave here the way I want to. So
Hmm.
if I'm blessed enough to have a child in the future,
Right.
or children, I be able to tell them that
Hmm.
I did not wait until I was told to pack my bags. I packed up and left on my own accord and set
Yeah.
out to do my own thing. And that made me feel, again, liberated. Not a second has passed since
Hmm.
I left where I wished I was back there. So that, again, confirms and reaffirms that I
Hmm.
made the right decision for myself. This is not a decision for everybody, obviously, but for me at the time and even now, I still feel it was the right thing to do.
I feel as if when you know that, but I'll ask you two questions on that, which is number one, what was the response or no, the reaction, sorry, the reaction of your company when you chose to walk away?
Well, I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Do
I
tell.
think, I think, sure, sure, sure. I'm not going to say anything bad about my company. They changed
Oh,
my life. That company
right.
provided me
Mhm,
with financial
mhm,
security for 8 years,
mhm,
and I have nothing bad to say about
mhm,
that. I think there were some things in my own head I wished
mhm.
were said to me. I think that anybody who does that hopes that the company's like, no, no, don't leave. We'll give you anything to stay. That didn't happen.
Okay.
And my general manager is somebody that, despite some rough bumps there
Yeah.
towards the end, I still do respect. But
Mhm.
he told me, he said, James, when somebody hands in their resignation letter, they're already gone. And that was telling, and
It's pretty
also
insightful, by the way.
very insightful. I also learned that I learned a lot about the corporate structure and
Mhm.
the corporate environment, and it's all a game. It's a game you've got to play.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go over the rules of that game
Mhm.
because it's different for everybody, but I have a better idea of the rules myself now.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of things in the corporate environment you feel like you're building up goodwill for, whether it's not taking it could be something like not taking sick days, could be something like working extra. It could be things like not going to human resources when you have a real problem because you don't
Right.
want to create a shitstorm.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is, you're
Mhm.
really not building up any goodwill. That you think you may think you are. You should utilize the resources
Mhm.
around you in a corporate environment fearlessly, and do whatever you need to do to make your experience the best it can.
Mhm.
There's more details to that, but again, it's really dependent on everyone's situation's different. But that was one of the biggest lessons I learned, at least in my situation, that you're not building up any goodwill.
Mhm.
You may think you are, but at the end of the day, you just need to be a good employee. And I think a separation of personal life and your business life is very important. And you should always work hard, not take shortcuts. But there, yeah, I hope I answered that as well
You
as I could, John.
100% did.
I'm an open book. I really, that's the
I'm
best way
grateful
I can put it.
for
Yep.
that, man. So,
Mhm.
how did you reinvent yourself, so to speak?
Still working on that. A period of self-discovery, this being able to leave and essentially not work for a period of time allowed me to reflect on myself and kind of
Right.
get inside my head
Mhm.
and understand that there's a lot of things about the way I was acting and things about myself and self-esteem levels and everything else that were directly because of what I felt I had to be to survive in that fight or flight environment, which is a
Right.
news for so many years. So getting out of that, we talked right before you hit record about
Yep.
this book called The Let Them Theory.
Oh, Mel
And
Robbins.
it is very it's a very it's a very impactful thing for me right now
Mhm.
because if somebody you have I'm understanding how much power throughout my life I gave to other people because I was so concerned about what they thought about
Mhm.
what I was doing. When at the end of the day, especially when you're old and gray in a rocking chair and it's all about to end,
You're not talking about me,
really,
are you?
there's only
Uh,
one, no way, John. There's only one there's only one person all the things you did matter to, and that's
yeah,
you. That's you. So it'll be my second tattoo. Let them. I'm not
I
sure
love
where
it.
I'm going to put it. Probably on one of my ass cheeks. No, I'm kidding. Uh,
You ain't
but
alone, by the way.
truly, well, it'll be a great look,
Yeah.
especially on the weekends. But yet, listen, that has helped me a lot. It really has to separate that and just kind of live in the moment and not wake up every morning with a pit in your stomach, worried, will I ever make this same
Mhm.
money again? Well, what am I going to do?
Right.
No, now I have a time to be a better boyfriend to my girlfriend, my future wife. I have a
Mhm.
time to be a better with my dogs and train them and
Mhm.
teach them things.
Oh,
I have time to just be in the moment and relax a little bit. So that's been good. Didn't happen right away, but you it that let them theory. Yeah, I'll tell
mhm.
you, it's pretty powerful stuff.
It's the time and the sense of direction. What I did want to ask though was this:
Mhm.
was your reinvention, not just in terms of your personal life, but the way that you present yourself. Look, you have become a senior consultant. You
Mhm.
are certainly not taking the pedal off of on camera, so to speak, different platforms, different mediums. You've got a program that's launching very soon called Off the Set. What I'm asking is your own reinvention in the way, I sorry for being repetitive, in the way that you actually present yourself. Has anything changed there?
A lot.
How
A
so?
lot. I want to be a better listener. I want to focus on people more during conversation and not feel like I have to spew my stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not sure the first half hour of this podcast is a great example of that,
Yeah, but
but
we need to get to know you.
we got to get you got
So
to get to
thank
know
you. That
me.
helps me.
And sure, I mean, you sell your skills. The
Mhm.
reinvention was realizing what should I do with what I did the last 15 years of my life. And it's not so much about working with people and telling them how to do something on camera. It's about making them feel more comfortable.
Mm,
My first program I'm writing is called Comfortable on Camera.
mm,
And sure, at the basis of this, it's about reps, but
mm.
it's also about helping people and utilizing the same things that I did over many, many years to be able to get up there in front of a red light and hot lights and a hot mic and be comfortable and focused and deliver and present really, really well. But the way people present has changed too. And the way people consume that and react to its change. I mean, we talk about that authenticity. You don't have
Sure.
to wear a suit and stand up there like there's a stick up your, you know what, and be so prim and proper anymore. That's changed. But
Right.
if I know I have a high level of confidence, I can make people feel more comfortable doing it. So the reinvention for me was really understanding how can I help people. And I look back and I think, what were my best days in broadcasting? And it was when I was helping people. Truly.
Mm,
It was work I did with nonprofits. I did a
mhm.
segment called Tully's Tales about
I
rescue
saw
dogs.
that, man.
Because I did, and Tully's Tales was awesome. I mean, I would
Mm,
go and you people rescue animals all the time, but what impact does the rescue animal have on the rescuer? And we profile that, and at the same time, we could give a great plug for the local tiny rescue because there's so many of them. We have a huge problem with stray cats, stray dogs,
right.
overcrowded shelters. That was a great way for me to help something.
Mhm.
Um, and those are the best days, John. So
So far.
how so far, so
Right.
far. And so I want to be able to help. I want to be able to help people.
So let me
That's
ask you
going to
something.
make me feel really That's going to be very rewarding for me.
I'm
Already
excited
has been.
about, well, right. So what would, because so many people, and I encounter this all the time, and people talk to me about this a lot, that sense of, you talked about your ability early on doing the reps, so to speak, so that you were not necessarily in a overcrowded field when you first broke in. So
Mhm.
now here we are, and everybody's got StreamYard or Riverside or old school Zoom or you know what
They
I
sure
mean, or
do.
whatever, right? I went with a classic recording today, but meanwhile, that so it's
Classic never dies.
there you go. So thank you. So therefore, that is the sense that so everyone has access, everyone has the platform. What
Mhm.
are a couple of things that you think to either alleviate the fear, I'm not good enough, I waited too long, it's too late for me, I'll never catch up. There's so many people in it. What are a couple things that somebody could do to either alleviate the fear or tighten up? Because if you're going to show up, you can't show up like you're just literally stumbling in front of a camera. So what would be a couple things that you think about? It's like, hey, you got the technology. Now, how are you going to use it?
Sit down with somebody like me and let's do some mock recordings and mock interviews and let's put you in the position in a setting where it's not recorded or it's not going to be put out for public consumption and let's
Mhm.
work on some things and get you comfortable. And I think everybody's different. Let's get to the bottom of why you have those fears. And it could be a past experience that didn't go very good for you. It could be how you view yourself. When you look in the mirror, you may be unhappy with some things. Um, and it's getting to the point where you don't need that validation because we all do in some way seek validation. So
Mhm.
that also goes back to the let them theory quite a bit, where if someone's going to, I didn't even say what the let them theory is. It's when somebody says something to you or says something about you or they're in a bad mood,
Mhm.
let them
Mhm.
do it. If you're so concerned about what somebody's going to say to you after you put that out or comments or
Mhm.
whatever else, let them say it.
Mhm.
The there's something about the comments. Of all people, Aaron Rodgers said this recently, and it
Oh,
just
right.
makes so much sense. And I wish that I would have thought of this 12, 13,
Mhm.
14 years ago, where I would never take criticism from somebody I wouldn't take advice from.
Yeah.
So why would you let Joe Schmo hiding behind a screen name bother you?
Mhm.
There's, and that is a principle that can
Mhm.
be applied
Mhm.
in every medium, but to anybody who is concerned about that kind of thing. Those are just some things.
No, but that's
Everybody's case
big.
is different, but I know where I'm going to have the most success with people,
Mhm.
John. It's going to be sitting down and doing the mock interviews, the mock
Mhm.
recording, the mock broadcasts, and getting to the bottom of things and talking with them about how they feel about this. What can we do different? How can we make you feel more comfortable? Is it in your preparation?
Yeah.
Is it in Right. It could come down to something as simple as that too.
I love the fact. So one of the things that I'm realizing, and I think that to give our audience the sense of additional confidence is this.
Mhm.
You named a few figures. Each of them include like the Megyn Kelly's, the Don Lemons, the Aaron Rodgers are
Yeah.
polarizing. They are very polarizing.
Mhm.
Here's the good news, which is the reminder. The old school television, I want to be on television, with the sense that it was because everyone watched. That was the misconception. Everyone watched, so you had to appeal to everyone.
Mhm.
The misconception part. They weren't all watching the same show. They weren't all watching at the same time.
Right.
And so everyone watched television, but
Mhm.
they weren't all sitting in front of David Muir, as you said, with the clothespins. We weren't all. A ton of people have no time or tolerance for Aaron Rodgers, including the New York Jets, that were like, you know what, we're rolling in another direction.
Right.
Here's the good news, especially for Aaron Rodgers. Who cares? Let them indeed, because I've got this massive following, say on Pat McAfee. I've got this massive platform where I can say whatever I want. And if
Mhm.
half the country, the world, the whoever says can't stand the guy, don't matter. If Megyn Kelly can have half the country have no time or tolerance and look at
Mhm.
her as just ew, they do. Don Lemon, same deal. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's still a lot of people, even when you take half away, a lot of people
Oh
that
yeah.
there's a great chance that want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Jay Leno
So,
said, sure. Jay Leno, one of his best quotes
huh?
was, "Look, everything I do out there is subjective. I just hope more people like me than don't like me,
That's all.
and
You
then I'm
don't need
okay."
the entire world at the same time. You
Right. And
don't.
as a news anchor, you never gonna be able to say what you want, but you can certainly be more of yourself, and you should be lockstep with your producers and not just taking scripts they hand you and reading it. You should talk with them and go over with them, go over your scripts and write in a way that's more conversational.
Yeah.
That's a great start.
Yeah.
And we always wrote at a fifth grade reading level, and I don't agree with treating the audience like they're not very smart
Oh,
because
dumb
they
it down
are.
because they won't understand. Oh my God, I remember the first time somebody said, and if this was a sales presentation, this wasn't
Really?
on camera. It was
Yeah.
10x if it was going in front of the camera. But it was like, we'll need to dumb that down.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
How
why?
insulting. How
Right?
insulting. Yeah.
Right?
I
And
know.
my thought was, I also do a fair amount of voice narration, and I have gotten waved off of so many things simply because I'm told I have what they say is, John, you sound really announcery. And my thought is, I'm just
Okay.
talking. I'm
You have the
just
anchor
speak. I'm
voice.
just talking. Right. So
Yeah.
nobody wants to hear that anymore
Yeah.
because
Well,
the
the anchor
old,
the anchor voice is a difficult one. I don't like hearing that either, but I
no,
do
'cause it
like
sounds like you're being
I
told what to do.
I do like and listen, I do like being clear with my words
That's
and
all. I'm
enunciating. And
speaking.
look,
You know what I mean?
whether you like it or not, this is the way I talk for a long time.
That's
So
it.
it's clear, it's
Mhm.
whatever else. I just want to be able to, what comes out of my mouth, I want to be authentic and not coming off of a
I
prompter.
still work
This
with
is
it. That's
good morning, everyone. Well, look,
everybody. And
sometimes it's not a good morning. Okay,
no,
during the throes of the pandemic, when the economy had tanked and you can't go outside, and I'm
right.
saying good morning, I
Two
imagine some
years.
people are like, "Who's this jerk?" Might be a
two
good
years
morning
of
for
good
him. It's
morning.
not. It's not
right?
good morning for me. Yeah, exactly.
So what would you like to? So you've set these new a new style of communication, a
Hmm.
new direction, all that stuff. What in your mind would you like to simply, what would you like to do in regards to making those things work? I'm just having conversation, so to speak. Is there a sense of the conversations take us to any specific direction, or is there something you'd like to accomplish specifically, whether it's for you, whether it is for your audience? And we'll stick with off the set.
Sure, let's go with off the set. I am going to be debuting a streaming show March 11th.
Mhm,
Follow me on all my social media pages. It's
mhm,
James Tully TV on all of them.
yep.
That's my last name's Tully TV. Um, yeah, look, I think that for a long time I was in a lot of content meetings where the overwhelming initiative was we need to give the audience what they want.
Mhm,
And I don't agree with that. I think you need to present something interesting to the audience and trust that your interests will also be other people's interests. And if
mhm.
you're talking about your interests, you're just going to be a flat out better personality. You're going to be a better interviewer, a better
Yeah.
conversationalist because it's what you want to be talking about,
Mhm,
right? And that's kind of the Joe Rogan philosophy. You know,
mhm.
it's like I'm going to have on this scientist talk about jellyfish today
For
because they might
three
be aliens.
hours.
Right, for
And you're
hours.
like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Well, then look at the
here you
views.
go. Look at the
Now,
results.
yeah, look at the results. So that's the biggest thing with off the set is it's simple. It's a
Mm,
half hour, maybe a little bit more
mm,
conversation with
mm.
somebody interesting that I find interesting. That's it. That's all it is. It puts me in a place where I can sit down there without well, I have notes, of course, but I don't have
Yeah.
anything telling me what to say. And let's just get into it. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Certainly is for me and where I'm going, but I trust it'll find an audience. I've got a nice, loyal, small group of
Mm.
former viewers, well, viewers in my former
Yours.
job. So,
Yours.
yeah, I trust that. That would be the first thing I'd start with. You're a
Mhm.
presenter. That's what you are.
Yeah.
So let's present something that you find
Mhm.
interesting because you're going to be more engaged, more passionate about it. I mean, just recently I was putting together some clips and I was looking at old stuff. And I particularly went back to Tulsa when I was doing sports, and I'm like, who's that guy? Look how excited he is. Look how passionate he is.
And
So I
that
just
was
put together.
real.
It
And
was
that was
real.
real,
It was
right?
real. It
And
was real. And really the morning anchor job beat me down pretty good just
Mhm.
because it was well, we can get into the repetitiveness of
Manufactured,
it.
but the fact is exactly.
Yeah,
But
right.
authentic, real,
Mhm.
and not perfect. The one thing I would
Not
add
perfect.
is this, which is that I think why there is such an inherent advantage, not for everyone, but for
Mhm.
those that are willing to do the reps, do the work, uh, is that the problem that broadcast television, linear sort of thing, I think have encountered. There's ways that it's solved, but they're still encountering the problem in a ridiculously bad way. Is the fact that you're asking people to come to you, meaning I gotta sit in front of, my mom is 95. She still watches the local news, but means you gotta be seated somewhere at 6 p.m. and stop what you're doing. And now I'm gonna get caught up on my day. And you're like, are you kidding? I'll just go find what I want and need. And I see that as the inherent great news is number one, you don't need everybody in the world. You need the people that are going to come and find you. And if you're taking the steps and doing the work, that's why I'm excited. That's why I was excited to have the conversation with you because I think it gives not just yourself hope, I think it gives other people hope. Because again, it's like make it worth the while that someone will come and find you. And I think it comes down to authenticity. James, I always ask people, unless I forget, but unless I typically intend to ask people this question, which is how would you define authenticity in 2025 as it relates to you?
Everybody's different.
Mm,
And everybody has unique thoughts and perspectives.
mm,
And I just don't want them to be clouded by trying to be something they think everybody else wants them to be. And just turn on the camera and be
mm,
yourself. I
mm,
think that's the ultimate goal
mm,
because everybody has unique, excellent perspectives. I
mm,
talked with a former producer of mine over the weekend. We ended up talking for 3 hours and we have very polarizing views on the world.
Yeah.
We both grew up in very different situations, but we spoke and talked with each other for a long time and heard each other out. And I think that at the end of the conversation, David said to me, I wish more people would have conversations like this because our world would be a lot better. And it's respecting another person's opinion, allowing them to have that, and also, on the other side of it, them respecting yours and allowing you to have your opinion and go back and forth and agree to disagree is not a bad thing. There's just the divisiveness with politics is pretty brutal right now, but you can't forget that there's my grandfathers fought for it. Our freedom of speech is very real, and it needs to be intact. And you have the right to say whatever you want to say about something. But that's defining authenticity. It's not the 25-second sound bites that are chopped up out of context. It's what we just did for the last hour. Sit down
Exactly.
And talk. And it gives anybody listening gives them a better idea of our perspectives and our thoughts and our experiences, and that's authenticity. We both were very real here, you and me. And I think that's a great, what we just did is an excellent definition of it.
It's the way I feel like when somebody energizes me, that's when I know that it's a conversation that matters. James Tully, you definitely did that for me.
Oh, thanks.
I will make it easier for our audience. Look, you don't have to rattle off at James Tully. All the links will be in the bio, folks, to find our man James Tully at James Tully TV. And I'm really excited to stay connected with you, man. I acknowledge you. I respect you. I appreciate you. And I thank you very much for showing up for me today and for us today.
John, you're an excellent interviewer. I enjoyed this so much. Thank you for giving me the platform. I don't even feel deserving of it, but thank you for allowing me to give you my thoughts and plug my little streaming show that's coming out. And it means a lot to me. And I'm really glad we connected. And I'm so happy to have spent this time with you today.
You and me both, man. It was great. And folks, you just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, sharing, telling your folks, and we'll keep driving content through your front door. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Have a great rest of the day, and we will talk soon. Be well, all. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.